Okay, that's live. I don't know what's going on. Are you back? Oh, Ectipec. Right, so people are back. Okay. Only one on. Super, super. I thought people. What did you do there, Anton? Did you just refresh? I suppose when people's rattle. So yeah, I think you've just to refresh. Hello again, Gremlins. We got Gremlins in the mix. That'll be Unit 8277 Brigade. It appeared to be haunting my entire internet platforms at the moment. So good sound down vid. That's good. Chad also did the right thing. Well, it weren't doing now. But I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not that particularly bothered about whether you're looking at me mush or not. As long as you can hear what I'm saying, that's main job. But I suppose it's probably better that it all works prep, as you'd expect. But so we've lost a lot. Anyway, I'll just give them a bit, see if they refresh. I've actually sent YouTube a little message just asking them to check in case I'm getting hacked from the outside, which of course we know we are, and they're probably more than aware of it also. So I'm not expecting big things to happen from that. So 13, all right, people are getting back. Super. Watching me, oh, good grief, man. They've been doing that forever. You know, it's not new to me. That's day to day. It's the havoc they tend to cause around me that is the problem. Yeah. Not so bad now. My flea bags are getting a bit older. They're getting a bit wise to it. But when they're youngsters, they don't know what's going on. But yeah, oh, it's not new. It's not new, chaps. It's second nature to my journey. And I just don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't give a toss. You get them thumbs up, guys, because they knocked nearly 100 likes off last week's Fantastic and Amazing. Do you know that? Disgusting. Banging. Right, so we got, well, let's pass on. So we got to the point where we understand now that the Pentagon warned of a specific methodology called schismogenesis. Okay? So, what it does, it breaks you down gradually, removing your ability to control critical thought. Yeah. So it gives you that much information that you think you've learned everything, and you think that then is your Bible for learning the TV, the media, entertainment, your favourite celebrity, your favourite writer, book writer, blah, blah, blah. You've got all that covered. And that is where you now take your data from the world, not from within, when you're applying yourself to these things. So it's a weapon that breaks you down gradually. And they've been using it, since Tavistock. So what is that? Before the First World War. It wasn't necessarily called that then, but this is where it got some gumption in the First World War. This move to totally and utterly understand human behavior. But then we had Carl Jung, we had Freud, etc. All these players in this mind job. So it breaks you down slowly. And what it does, you don't need to use your critical thought anymore because it's massaging you all the time. And then you get to the point where you lose the ability to use the critical thought because it's a muscle not used. Gone again. Who's gone? Can you hear me? Have we got some fruit bats? Won't mind a couple of fruit bats now and again. Liven it up. You can hear me, super. All right. So what happens then? You've lost your ability to critical thought, and you've not noticed that that's the case. And what that actually starts to do then, as they start pumping out contradictory stuff, is you get confused, and that starts to lead to stress, and then you start to become anxious as your day-to-day, your normal standing of how you exist in every day is one of being anxious and confused, and the stress levels start to create the toxins in your body. You start to get ill. Yeah, so can you see? So that's the mechanic they're using to slowly break down your ability to use critical thought. Now, once you're in that state and you've lost your sort of ability to critically think, you can't break free of your own accord, which is where numpties like me come in, where we try and throw errors in to help you break that situation that you're in by doing the critical thought for you and throwing in the answers. So that's what people like me try to do, to help people, to encourage people, because until you flip out of that, I can sit here chatting for a fortnight. It's meaningless. It's meaningless unless you're actually absorbing it, comprehending it. And the loss of critical thought, you can't do it on your own. You need people like me to try and do that thought process and throw in the answer to a question you've probably had yourself. And sometimes that can be enough to pull you out that first point. Then you can start to look at yourself and you can start to see how you really have lost that ability, and it's no wonder you're then subject to whatever comes out of the media. So you become trapped. Now, what they call this, or this particular guy, is called JK. He's in a mess at the moment because obviously they are giving him loads. I mean, I know they're all over me, but nothing compared to what they're giving this guy. However, I've suffered this shit many times that they're giving this guy. Many times. Difficult in the early days, but it's water off a duck's back nowadays. It doesn't really affect me that much at all. I'm aware of it, but I don't let it bother me. So you become trapped in what he calls a feedback loop. Now, anybody that knows anything about music or any such thing, speaking, microphone, amplifier, feedback, okay? And once it becomes a loop, it just, it's off, it won't stop. So what he's saying, if you can see it in that mechanic, that once they apply this schismogenesis through all the mediums they've got to break you down so you can't actually critically think and analyze this shit that's coming out of these talking heads, you sort of get trapped in a loop. So you'll go through the angst, the anxiousness, the stress, but you can't get out of it. So you're back again, and you've got to go through it again, and because you can't get out of that small loop because you can't apply critical thinking. Are you with me? Now, religion serves you up this too, because it gives you all the fears and then gives you all the answers. Again, you're losing the ability to critically think when applying yourself, not to the doctrine, but to what you're being told you must do by them that is saying, we know what the crack is, right? So it's nothing new. It's nothing new. But these mind job, I won't even call them scientists, these mind job fruitcakes that we're all involved in, how can we control the humans, they found out about it and applied it to all that they had their hands in, which is the foundations, which is the intelligence arena, because as I've said, it's private. It doesn't belong, just because it says British. Mind you, British, if it said English, we wouldn't be too bad. We have to become the English intelligence, you know what I'm saying? That's your militia kind of stuff. You need to know what's going on. You need to know who's doing it. You need to know why they're doing it. Yeah, and then you need to express that to other people so that they know what's going on. They know. Because it's not knowing that creates confusion that puts you into this feedback loop. So that's another really important term to get in your mind. Now, so once you're in this feedback loop, you're determined. The only way out is by listening to what it is you think's feeding you knowledge, and of course, so then you're stuck. So, you know, it's like I'll stand there and say, "Oh, turn the telly off." You don't turn the telly off because you believe that to be your God. It is giving you everything you need because you've lost the ability to apply yourself to it and give it some critical thought, a bit of reasoned application to what it is that's being said. You know what I'm saying? And as that loop deepens, you go further and further down in it, and it starts to amplify itself inside you. So the stress is going up, the anxiety is going up. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Because what I've just explained to you there is autism. That is what autism is. It's people stuck in a feedback loop. This is what it is, autism. And it's down. Now, another interesting side of what this guy's brought to the table is that it can actually be spread. So autism, we know, and we've tied it to aluminium, causing problems in the nervous system, especially if it gets embedded in the brain. However, could that be a diversion for what is more of a psychological problem, perhaps caused in the womb by a certain medication, etc.? If so, that's another potential. But the thing is, the autism. So, for instance, if you constantly, as a parent, are barraging your children with, "You're no good, you're not this, you don't that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this," them children are consistently then questioning themselves to the point you become that font of all knowledge. They lose the ability to critically think. They're in a feedback loop, but they're also children. So they're not behaving in a grown-up manner. They're confused, and you're going to get insane behaviour. Now, if you go back to the baby boomers, as were my parents' generation, the only thing they dished out 24/7 was this shit. Because that's all they'd had put down them from their parents, the war generation, who were damaged. And they were the children of the war generation from the First World War, again, very damaged. So this has been a systematic implementation of what was identified in 1935 as schismogenesis. Can you get this? This is so serious. I've been on this now for maybe a week and a half, but I only watched it once, and I could see how profound this is, and more to the point, why this guy is getting so much flack. I mean, he's really not in a good place at the moment. I've tried to make contact on his YouTube, but I think YouTube or the hackers are knocking it off. So he's either not getting it. My comment appears to be knocked off as well. So I've tried to reach out, but so far with no luck. But his last videos are not good. I took this off from one in June this year, but these latest videos he's not doing very well at all. They've really isolated him, and God knows what they bombarded him with. You know what I'm saying? It's not good. So once you get this feedback loop going, it just gets bigger and bigger and amplifies itself all the time. Yeah. Now this, you think about this application into a nation, into a culture via invading its religion. Yeah, which is what they're doing everywhere around the world. And you can understand then better why people are going for this. Even though everywhere you look, there's people dropping like flies. There's an absolute ton of revolting side effects. But yet, still, even when they've had a break and all's gone back to normal, the minute the talking heads announce through the trumpets the next raft of absolute bollocks, off they go. You know? Now we've just earlier this week, Tuesday, they set off new rules in relation to the face nappy. Now, I was quite impressed at first, but then I didn't really understand it because I weren't focused to that. I was busy on this stuff. So I had misunderstood. I thought it were immediate from when they'd said it didn't come into force till Tuesday. So I was gobbing off about how great, fantastic you all are because nobody was seeming to take any notice, but not realising it didn't come into force till Tuesday. So, of course, it was pretty clear that Spartacus had been captured by Saturday and crucified by Wednesday because they were all back out with the face nappies on. So, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, total garbage. Also, I were on my face ache thinking I were talking live over Boris's announcement and went through the whole 20 minutes thing yapping up on my Facebook, only to realise I was looking at a 2-month-old video because I was working on this and I shouldn't really have been focusing on that. So again, I was talking bollocks. So we can all talk bollocks if we're not just focused to what we're actually doing. So needless to say, I stopped writing bollocks on my Facebook about Boris the Defeffel because he hadn't actually incriminated himself on the Saturday until the Tuesday. So my fuck it or whatever. Anyway, I fucked it up. So if you want to take down the nation, you don't want to go in there full Monty killing everybody. Which, let's face it, today with the militaries that we do have, okay, they're in the hands of the priesthood. But once these things start to crack off, you know, you never know how it's going to go because you're dealing with human nature. You know what I'm saying? So it's not the best option unless you've got a complete compliant population, which we haven't got. They haven't got a complete compliant populations in a lot of places. And I'm happy to say a lot of places that have the origin from England, not Britain. I'm talking it's law, it's ethos, you know. So, you know, the world should start to recognise that the reason why they want to destroy that system, you know, because it benefits everybody. Yeah. Now, so that system of creating a feedback loop in the population themselves and then just pumping out bollocks that they vote to follow, then take into consideration we don't know what this shot is. We don't. We have a bloody good idea, but we don't actually can say, oh, no, we know. Because I'm also now starting to look a lot of these so-called doctors, so-called experts that are coming out and being emblazoned across cyberspace on specific outlets. And some of these specific outlets are newbies, let's say. And so I'm starting to look at these people again in that they are maybe, or in my opinion, are using this very system. Yeah. To gain this controlled opposition in this next phase. Now, we touched on this last week, didn't we, when we got into Australia? Now, we're a week on and things have happened, things have moved. I put last week's live stream on Mr. Hood's daily Facebook video. And to my surprise, he actually didn't remove it. So I thought, that's good. But then I also understand how it works. If a lot of people had seen it, he wouldn't. What he did, however, do was take down the video that he put up, which then removed all the comments. But not for a couple of days. So at first I thought, fair play to lad. Is he actually going to learn something? Or is he so far up his ass, he already believes he knows everything? Amen. Because God said, which is questionable with what else I've been looking at this week, as to what God is dealing with here. Now, his next video after that, what he did, and I came to this, I had no idea what and why, but he explained why he took it down, and he said that it was because he gave the impression that he was in support of Daniel Andrews' garbage bill that has now been passed. You are Aussies. You are fucking so behind. You are fast asleep. You are suffering this schismogenesis. I can't say that. I've been saying it all week. And are now in a feedback loop. Now, They are then. They've got you in a feedback loop. They've given you all the knowledge is out. These expert doctors are giving you what's in it, what's not. Playing this to further divide the population between them that have had it and them that haven't. Now, I don't care what anybody says, and I will read stuff and I'll look at what people say, but I will always revert back to what's my experience. And I don't know anybody, personally, that's caught anything of anybody that's had one of these. I haven't yet to know anybody that's catched it deliberately. There's been ideas that it might be, but it's not confirmed. So I'm not so sure. And a lot of these so-called expert doctors on these specific platforms are the ones in the main pushing this narrative. Now, I kept along with it because I do trust those Spanish guys. They seem to be doing. But then again, I don't know who these people are. So maybe I have not given its due diligence there. However, I've always kept a bit of an arm's length sort of. I've put it on the Facebook if somebody sends it because I think, well, if it is the case, people need to know. If they want to look at it, they know where to come. They can always look on my Facebook data dump because there's all sorts of nonsense goes on there for people to have a look and make their own mind up because that's what it's about. You know, you apply yourself to anything that anybody brings to the table. And I'll give you a bit of an heads up there. It's a lot easier to deal in this game if instead of giving to monkeys who the personality is, what's the data they're bringing? Because if you're good enough at discernment to know the crap from the good, it doesn't matter who you watch. It doesn't matter what they're affiliated with. They're selling a lie, if they're selling a lie, on a shitload of truth. So you can only learn, and if you can discern, you're going to pick out the truth, and you're going to reinforce what you know about them to be the lie they're pushing. So it's never wasted to look at these people. Just don't follow them verbatim, and don't get hooked up on the personality of them. You know what I'm saying? There's somebody bringing data. Yeah, if they're assholes, then they're shilling you. You know what I'm saying? But even so, even with me, don't take me gospel on anything. You know, I'm moving in this game and learning as I go. That's how it goes. And I'm happy to present what I've found if I think it's got some worth. Because people that watch this now, and there's quite a few pretty regulars, you don't deserve anything other than the best I can offer you. And I'm not saying I'm infallible. I wouldn't even dream to say I'm infallible. You know what I'm saying? But I do have a good eye. And I know you guys have got a good eye. And a lot of the time, you bring stuff on this chat that I haven't seen. And hopefully I'm bringing you stuff that you haven't seen, but it's connecting more and more of these dots that we do need to keep connecting. So to take down a nation, this is what they've been applying. Now, this was perfected in Soviet Russia. And this is why you get all this Russia collusion that goes on everywhere. Because there is, and there always has been. There were Russian collusion. There were US and Soviet collusion from the get-go. Where do you think they got all the tech from? Where do you think the Bolsheviks at the background of the Iron Curtain were getting all their money? The tech were a transfer of wealth behind the Iron Curtain off into China. You know, off into Vietnam. Wherever these communist regimes were being picked up, they were still being funded by Wall Street via the inner city of London corporations like Northrop Grumman, GEC. You know, all these huge, gigantic, mammoth global corporations. They were shifting our stuff out and funding the Bolsheviks, not only to carry out what they carried out in Russia, but then to move it to the east, to Vietnam, and on into China. You know, that's what they did. So this is Bolshevik. This is Bolshevism. This is how they undermine nations and cultures. This is what they do. But of course, they can only do that if their target audience complies and goes along with it. So naturally, they use, what is it that attracts the humans? Well, let's give him sex. Let's give him every debauchery that they really secretly would love to unleash in the world. And that's been very successful from the roaring 20s, let's say. Not top down, aristocracy first in the 20s, because they accepted the Schofield, petering down through the Masonic lodges into general society. So that's what they've been doing, and it can remove and change your religious cultural identity without a military attack, and it creates disunity within the target group. And you can see with this, like I've just suggested, some of these so-called expert doctors on these specific platforms, because if you look at it, that's where they all come from, and then they get passed around everywhere on social media, because people are starting to trust these new platforms and the other ones, the existing ones, that are again pushing their shilling everywhere. So now you can look at it and say that the left-right split has been sort of the root, or let's not say the root of the division here would be Protestant Catholic. That was the initial split route. So, even the Reformation comes under this methodology. And as I've said, you can tell the priesthood have known this forever because they've used it in the religions themselves forever. However, the mad scientists got hold of it through Freud, Jung, and all the offshoots that came off that, to Tavistock, MK Ultra. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying there. So, Langley, all these renowned bases for this kind of nonsense. Area 51, all that kind of stuff. Moving the next potential phase in this operation of what they call disclosure of the pretend aliens. Now, have you given that some thought, how that I'd have to work? Because already we're seeing some spectacular stuff in the skies all over the world, and they're getting videoed because everybody's got a camera. But Project Bluebeam, which is a very old project, was all about giving the ability to create holograms. So your spraying of heavy metal particles in the atmosphere creates the cinema screen for this show to go on. Yeah, that's no secret. So, that's one reason why they're throwing into our atmospheres all these metal particles, because they can use it in various ways in a cloud kind of situation against the target. So it's either holograms in the sky, fixing it to the vegetation so they can set it on fire and it's not going to be put out because you're burning metal particles. And of course, to get us all to inhale it. Also to move the pH of the soil to pH neutral, which will mean nothing will grow, only the seeds patented by Monsanto and its merry offshoots. Same with the cattle, foot and mouth, CJD, getting rid of the old strains of cattle. In come these new genetically modified and patent-owned cattle, sheep, hens. They have to control farming because, there might still be some wily farmers left, although foot and mouth did destroy all the smaller ones. Oh, we go again. Well, I'm not going to turn it off again, guys. I'll just carry on blabbing if you can hear me, all right? So we've got to look at it in that sense, that is what is going on. What have I got here? So we've got religious split first, then you've got the left-right in when they got parliaments going. So there's another division. And now with this, they're moving into them had a shot and them not had a shot. It's as clear as day. It's just another method en masse of creating this feedback loop mentality in the populations. And it's not good because it's working. It's working to a treat, Now, I'm just wondering what to do here now. Because that pretty much covers. So, as I said, what we're looking at here, basically, so we're looking at schismogenesis, creating a feedback loop in your being, is a full description of what autism is. It's what it is. Yeah. So when these autistic children become grown up, then you have to start applying this idea that they're not, unfixable, but they have to be brought into the idea that they have to start to use critical thought to pull themselves out of it. They're not children anymore. They need to apply themselves, and you can pull yourself out of these feedback loops. But you have to do it. You have to do it. And that goes in with all the Eastern philosophies about how it's a breaking down of everything you've learned. You need to break it down and get rid of it to find yourself. So you're only asking them to do what we're all basically here to do anyway. You know, is your USB? No, I'm not. I'm on to. It's nothing to do with that. They're knocking it off. I'm on the built-in camera, so it's nothing to do with that. What does it say? Let's have a look. We've got some. See, there's nothing I can think to touch that will change the video webcam. Let me look. What does webcam say? Well, why is it not working? No, I'm going to say that they're doing this. Okay, and I'll tell you why they're doing this, because they don't like what's coming next. Okay, that's why. Because like I said, they've been on me all week. So they know what I'm looking at. They know what I'm up to. And they're not happy. The Mass Detective, my friend, honestly, I haven't had time to do anything. And again, if there's people watching and they've sent me emails asking me for help, etc., I do apologise, but at the moment, I'm just stuck into a particular avenue of research, and this is a part of it as well. But I'm not doing or trying to do anything else at the moment. So my apologies. I'm not ignoring anybody. I'm just head down, stuck in here. So I'll have a look at some of your thingies, and then I think what we'll have to do is maybe start it again. So hello to everybody. Sean's Sunday School. Oh, very Methodist. No, Methodism were a construct. A bit like this. Reprogramming your minds for this fourth industrial revolution. Methodism was the method of twisting your minds for the industrial revolution. You know, it were not give to Caesar what Caesar, this is mine, fuck off, you are. It were be happy to work in the mills and the mines for Jesus. And it worked a treat. You know, this is how we've got to start looking at this. This is the method. This is it. This is what they've done. This is the game. Feedback loop. Schismogenesis. That's all you need to start looking at now from now on to understand the predicament everybody around you is in. Because by that method, you might be able to pull them out. But first, you'd have to get them to understand that idea. That could be just the way to click them out, basically. Because, you're not going to fight these people militarily. There are successes in law. The New Zealand government have been told they can't mandate these shots because of the Nuremberg Codes. There is a similar case going through in Australia also at this present. So not all is lost, but it is up to us. It really is up to us to push this forward, because if we don't, the end game for this is just quite terrifying. You're into the Secrets of Fatima territory if this doesn't get grasped, people. And I kid you not. And that scared the living shit out of me back in the day. So much so, every now and again, I'd refuse to believe it. I'd pretend it were rubbish and not happening. But the more that we've gone with this, and especially it was that if you don't sort Russia out, we're in trouble. And that's because the same priesthood that controls Israel controls Russia, controls China, is controlling the US, is controlling Blighty, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, especially Australia. Especially Australia, people. I kid you not. Yeah, it's frightening why they're doing it to Australia specifically. So what do you want to do, guys? Do you want me to refresh and you'll come back on anew, or shall we just carry on? It's not my laptop. I'm not a laptop, mate. I'm on an iMac. It's nothing to do with my computer, bud. Nothing whatsoever to do with it. I can assure you. All week they've been in it. They're all over it. They're all over me. LinkedIn, doing the same, everything. Because back to Australia. So I put the video on his one of his day, I think it might have been Monday's video, left it up for a couple of days and took it down. He said because he'd given the impression that he was supporting Daniel Andrews' bill. All right. I don't think that was the case. Now, in that video, he did use the term. Are you getting this? This is aimed at me. I'm quite gutted. In fact, I'm really upset. He called me. Obviously, it didn't come from Tom saying it, but a fringe lunatic. I'm a fringe lunatic. Can you believe this? So what can I say? So, right, so what do you want to do? Do you want to refresh your big bums or what? All right. Refresh it is. So, all right. Oh, shit. I've got to go through all that again. All right. Away we go.